Hello, Bernhard.
Hi,
What will
Carsten.
we do in this video?
Yeah, we will now create some volumes, right? And first we start maybe with the non-expected thing. We will create a local volume. That means one that is not stretched, because just to show that this is still possible on a stretched HCI cluster,
Yeah. What
because we can.
would we use that?
Yeah,
What is the
maybe,
use case?
you have some local resources, virtual machines sitting on that don't need to be geo redundant in that kind of way. So,
Mhm.
you can still use a local volume for that,
And there are
right?
some applications, of course, who have replication built in, right? Like, for example,
Right.
domain controllers. You don't have to replicate a
Yeah.
domain controller. You have multiple of them. They have the same information.
Yeah.
Databases, maybe.
Yeah.
SQL has an always-on cluster, and Exchange are some Microsoft examples where you
Mhm.
have built-in replication or redundancy in the application, so you don't have to do it on the VM, right?
Yeah, and we talked about it. It might be the better choice, right?
Yeah.
Because it's application specific. It's tuned for that application, right? And it's not, and the application is aware of its form of redundancy. So I think it makes sense to have, some sort of mixed use and be cautious about to decide which solution is the best.
Hmm.
So we create a local one, and then we also keep it as a reference, right? Because we want to do performance testing
Hmm.
later,
True.
and sort of get the differences between the local one and the stretched one. And then you are going to create a stretched volume using Windows Admin Center, and we show how that's done because there are some more steps involved, some more questions that need to be answered. And if you look at the creation process, there are more things happening. But I think,
It's it's a bit more complex, right?
yeah, let's do it, right? So switch over to your screen because you are
Yeah.
the master of ceremony now.
Okay, and later we will also look a bit at the networking, right?
Mhm.
So this is
Yeah.
a jam-packed session. So
Mhm.
here I'm in Windows Admin Center, and now it recognizes the HCI cluster because here you see we have volumes and drives, and I had to deinstall Windows Admin Center and reboot the system and then install it again, and now it really recognized the cluster. Just here you see our two pools, yeah, and we mentioned this is the only supported way to have more than one pool stretch cluster, yeah. But now we want to create volumes, and for that we go to the volumes area or screen, and here you see we have already seen our four cluster performance history volumes, but
Mhm.
first we wanted to create a
A local one.
volume that is only presented on one side, so on a
Mhm.
single side. And you see here, the volume creation is a little bit different than we have it in a non-stretch cluster. We can choose between create in a single side and replicate across two sides. We will do that later. Now we want
Mhm.
to create a volume in one side. And let's choose the odd side,
Mhm.
and we just name it no, no, non-stretched
Mhm.
one. It's a very a good name, I think.
Mhm.
And let's do 500 gigabytes,
Mhm.
and it will create a ReFS volume. We have more options. We don't play with integrity checksums. We don't encrypt it. It's
Mhm.
just fixed, and we will just create it.
Mhm. So what were the resiliency options, right? So we've seen that was a two-way mirror, right?
True. I didn't look at that. You exactly. So we have three choices here.
Yeah.
They are the same as in a two-node cluster, and we will just look into them again.
Mhm.
Yeah, I forgot that. So just last, just, just pretend we will do another
Mhm.
single side volume, and if we go here, we have the resiliency, the two-way mirror. It's just two
Mhm.
copies of the extent,
Right.
like we have in a two-node cluster.
Mhm.
Then we have a nested two-way mirror. That's
Mhm.
basically a four-way mirror. You have
Mhm. Mhm.
in each node of the two nodes of one side. The pool has only two nodes. We
Mhm.
have a 4-node stretch cluster, 2 inside 1, 2 inside 2. So
Mhm.
we have 2 copies of the data in every node. That's
Mhm.
the nested two-way mirror. And then we have also the nested mirror accelerated parity. That's a
Mhm.
combination of a nested two-way mirror, so a four-way mirror, and
Mhm.
also a RAID 5+1. But
Mhm.
these are more resilient,
Mhm.
but you also have less, you get less usable space out of your extents that you have,
I
right?
mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, all the thing that you're configuring just happens on one side,
Mhm.
and you only have two nodes on this side. So and then therefore you have only the resiliency options of a two-node system, I would say, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we go with a two-way mirror because when we create stretched volume, now
Mhm.
let's go here.
Mhm.
We have the same choice, but
Right.
now we have two copies in one side and then again two copies in the other side. So we have four
Right.
copies. If we
Mhm.
would go with the four-way mirror, we would have 8 copies. And for a lot of customers,
Mhm.
it's a bit too much. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and we want to do performance comparison. So wouldn't be really fair to compare a
Mm.
four-way mirror with a single side volume to the other volume, right?
Mhm.
So we want to
Okay,
see
get it.
what is the replication, what's the impact of the replication.
Mhm.
But now
Okay.
let's create a replicated volume, so a stretched volume.
Mhm.
And first we have to choose from where to where. And we also go to from the odd side. So it will be created in the odd side and the
Mhm.
replica will be in the even side. Yeah.
Mhm.
We can switch sides and we will do that later in the series. But in the moment, the
Mhm.
volume lives in the odd side and the redundancy is on the even side.
Mhm.
And we can choose between the replication mode. So we talked about the different
Yeah.
replication modes in the intro. We have
Mhm.
an synchronous replication. We want that. So every data that is written on one side is synchronously replicated to the other side. And when
Mhm.
it's there on a device, then it's acknowledged and our application can be sure that the data is in two sides. Yeah.
Get it. Yeah.
Asynchronous is if we have really long distances and
Mhm.
let's say
Yeah.
500 kilometers, and the latency of the network would add a lot of latency. So we could
Or
do
if you have some sort of a flaky network, where not every packet is, successfully transmitted right now. I
true,
think
yeah.
that
So
would
we
be,
also have the lock is used as a buffer, for
mm,
example. So if the network um, is flaky, how you say it, or can't give us the performance we need for
yeah.
our writes. So let's call this
Mhm.
like one of the node because we
Okay.
later want to use VM fleet.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we did a long, I think, 2 videos in the single site series. Let's say it. So if you're interested in VM fleet, look there. We will use it later, but we will not explain
Yeah.
it in this series. Yeah? So this is the name. I
Mhm.
will do a 1 terabyte volume.
Mhm.
Yeah, we will not go here. We have also the options. We can choose to use integrity checksums for the data. We can encrypt the volumes. That's nice.
Mhm.
When I started with Stretch Cluster in the first version, you had to encrypt the volumes by hand. It was not possible
Mm.
with Windows Admin
Okay.
Center, at least stretched volumes.
Mhm.
Stretched volumes in the moment are always fixed, so no thin provisioning.
Mhm.
And we have here an advanced tab or an advanced area. And here we can specify the storage replica group names. We go with the
Mhm.
defaults
Yep.
and we can specify how large the lock volume is because we have a lock volume and we
Mhm.
could encrypt the traffic so
Mhm.
that the replication data is encrypted. You should do
Mhm.
that, of course, if you leave your network side. So if you go over some kind of public network, should encrypt the traffic. Um, but here we will not do that, and we can also enable consistency groups. We will not
Mhm.
do that
Okay.
either. So let's just create the volume,
Mhm.
and maybe he will ask me for.
Yeah, you have increased the size for the log volume. So what was the intention for this one, right? So you're not going with the 40 gigabyte default, you raised it up to 100 gigabyte. What was
Yeah.
your intention on this?
Yeah, I've so for example, if we would have a network problem, the log
Hmm.
file is used to buffer the data, also with a synchronous
Yeah.
replication. Um, and if the network comes back in that time, so the log file is not full, the 100 gigabyte are not written to the log file, or it's a bit less. It can the synchronization can synchronize the missing data and go back to the synchronous state. If the log file flows over,
Hmm.
yeah, so if it's not enough space there and the time, let's say the interruption is too long, the synchronization has to start from the first byte to the last byte of the volume. So give it a bit, if you give it a bit more space, you can endure a longer outage, for
Okay.
example. And
Hmm.
I heard somewhere that 10% maybe not a not too bad log file size, but of course if you do 10 terabyte volumes, you won't go with a terabyte log file.
Hmm.
That's maybe too much. Yeah, but here I use roughly 100, 200 gigabytes depending on the size of the volume.
Hmm. Okay.
So here we see, yeah, this was our first volume where the data lives. We have on the
Hmm.
same host, so it's living on host 3.
Hmm.
On the same host or on the same site, we have our log volume, the 100 gigabyte.
Hmm.
And then we have two more volumes. We have the
Hmm.
replica volume. It has the same size than the original volume, but you don't see
Hmm.
it because it's not mounted. It's
Yeah.
offline. We can't use it, but the
Hmm.
data will be replicated there. But let's just switch to your screen because we want to see something, Bernhard. Huh?
Yeah. The question would be, now we have a stretched volume, and we are writing data to it. Which networks will be chosen for the replication traffic? That would be maybe interesting question to
Yeah,
watch out
so
for. So let's have a
we
look.
we were too slow, Bernhard. So we
No
create
worries.
another
I
one,
mean,
right?
yeah, create another volume. So switch to your screen.
We create
And
another one because the terabyte, maybe let's do a larger one so we have a bit more time. I do another one this time.
and it's interesting to see, right? So the when you are creating, and I'll let you create and maybe talk a little bit over it. I mean, if you create that volume, um, all the zeros that are in an empty volume, right, need also to be replicated. And that takes some time. So you would see network traffic right after the time of creation of that replicated volume, of that stretched volume. And that is basically what we are doing, right? So we are creating that volume and then have a look at the network adapter of the individual host,
Yeah.
and see where the traffic is flowing. So
So if we would choose the compression,
mhm,
yes, no, there is also a compression option that should be on by default in 22H2. I'm not sure, but I think so. The data is compressed a bit, so
mm,
it's maybe not a whole terabyte or now the 2 terabytes. But we will see a lot of traffic. So
mhm,
let's look here when the first volume arrives. When we have all four volumes, then
mhm.
a partnership is created so that the storage replica uh, uh, that it knows this volume is replicated to this volume and these are the log volumes. Is something happening here? Yeah, it's creating the volume, the first one. And when the partnership is there, the replication starts. Yeah.
Mhm,
So in the moment we are just at the stage where the first volume is created. Yeah. Then we have to choose the right host because we have four nodes.
mhm,
So the chances are 50-50 that we are not getting the data on
mhm,
the first node where our task manager is running. Yeah. So I will prepare on the third node also a task manager. There it is. Nice. There it is. We have a task
mhm,
manager here. Okay, let's go back. Is he still? He's still preparing the 2 TB volume. So now we have it. There it is. There's
Mhm.
our log file. And now
Mhm.
it's creating the replica volume. Because I chose 2 TB, it takes a bit longer to
Mhm.
format it and so on. So we have a
Can we,
bit more time.
yeah, can we have a look which node it will choose to place this? So it's the node
So the
number 2.
second one is the
All right.
source. So I
Mhm.
could also open the task manager
Mhm.
on the second one. At least we have our source node.
And when the replication starts, we should see a lot of stuff on the send now. Okay, so
Yeah,
the
there we
partnership.
are. So it's on the first one. That's good. So now the replication is starting. Yes, a partnership. Let's go to the first one. We should see a lot of data here. See here, 21, 10 gigabit, 16 gigabit, 9 gigabit, 6 gigabit. It's
Mhm.
using multiple network
Or
adapters, right?
yeah, so
But
it's using the replication ones and the cluster networks, right?
because these are over the two sides. So let's
Mhm.
just say that's the second one. Let's just set the constraints, yeah, or we will talk about that later so that we maybe see direction is even. So there will be an error, but now you see we
Mhm.
only use the replication networks now. So the cluster network is went down from, let's say, 10 gigabyte, 12, 15 gigabyte down
Okay.
to bit, and now
Mhm.
only the replication networks are used.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was our intent, right?
So that is, yeah, basically, we are shaping the traffic flow here. Where is the replication traffic going, right? So we remember we have these 4 adapters. They are all routed between the two sites. So potentially they could be used. And that's what, happens without any setting. But we want to, shape the traffic to use only the replica adapters. And that's what Carsten has in his PowerShell script to set the replica
Yeah.
constraints. Basically, what command is it? There is a one-liner, right? Usually, but you need to, do you have a code sample for this?
Yeah, I have. Let me see. Set. We can look into the script. It's
Mhm.
we have seen so many scripts in this
Mhm.
series,
Yeah.
right? So um, so I open this a bit more.
Mhm.
Yeah. The important part is this line here.
Okay.
So we use the set
Yes.
storage replica network constraint. Yeah.
Mhm.
We give him the source replication group name.
Mhm.
We have it in a variable. And we said use those cluster networks. So you remember in the last, or our viewers maybe remember in the last video,
Mhm.
we renamed our cluster networks.
Mhm.
We renamed them from cluster network 7, for example, to REPL 10. It's maybe not the best name, but it is. Um,
Yeah.
O is in the odd side, and
Yeah.
we have one of those, two of those replication adapters. So we
Mhm.
say this the it's from odd, so the replication is from odd to even. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, in our case, we use this one. It was the second volume. It was created in even to
Mhm.
odd,
Mhm.
and we said then we say the cluster. These are the source networks. It's on the even side. These two are used on the even side with this resource group.
Mhm.
Um, and the destination is the destination group, and then we use the
Mhm.
destination interfaces. These are the cluster networks. That's important. It's not the interface cards on
Yeah.
the host. Yeah,
Okay, and interesting it is because you need to do it per stretched volume you create, right? So this is not something
exactly.
you do only once. You do it with every volume, with every stretched volume that you create, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
Windows Admin Center doesn't do it for you because
mm,
it doesn't know which network cards to take, right?
right.
Because we have to specify the cluster networks
Mhm.
that are used. So you remember,
Mhm.
not you, our viewers remember.
Mhm.
These are the cluster network names, and we want to use our
Yeah.
replication networks, right? They,
Mhm.
they are specially built for that. and we don't want to use management or anything else. These are just our replication adapters,
Mhm.
and it's working. It's
Okay.
so many people forget that they have
Mhm.
to do that, and maybe then the traffic goes even over the management network. It depends how
Mhm.
SMB3 the replication traffic is SMB3 traffic.
Mhm.
SMB3 has its own ways to find the way to the other side. And in our example, it chooses 4 adapters because they are equally fast. They're all 25 gigabit adapters.
Mhm.
So it takes all of them. If the management would also be a 25 gigabit adapter, it would also take the management. So we would
Mhm.
have the traffic over 5 networks, and we don't want that, or maybe we don't want that.
Mhm.
Okay, Bernhard.
Yep. So I think that's it for the
Yeah,
constraints.
I have one more thing.
Eh,
One more thing. You have
yeah.
maybe another thing.
No, that's good. I mean, the partnerships and the groups, I think, would be interesting to see for the people. So there is,
Yeah,
you
we will
know,
do that.
you talked about the groups when using or setting the network constraints, right? Um, and the groups are is one concept here, and you have to, with every volume that you do stretched, you have two groups, right? A source and a destination. So, and you
Exactly.
could see it from the name. The source group name is
Here.
dash group, and the other one is dash replica dash group, right?
If we don't change the names in admin
That's
center,
yes,
that's
that's the default.
yeah. And here we have in our volume, second volume we did,
Hmm.
it's still replicating its initial block copy. And we see here, we
Hmm.
have a little bit of information in Windows Admin Center. It's a bit lacking. Maybe it's not
Hmm.
updating all the time. If we do a reload, maybe. Yeah,
Hmm.
but you see here it says it's at 1.11 terabyte of 1.83 terabyte are
Hmm.
copied. Now it jumps to 1.39. So we have a little bit of feedback.
Hmm.
What's happening with the replication here? If is it synchronous?
Yeah.
We can have more information. We can switch directions, and we will do that later. But here, at least, we have a
Yeah.
little bit of information.
So basically, when you created that stretched volume using Windows Admin Center, a
Mhm,
couple of things happen, right? So the first thing is there will be a cluster shared volume be created, the original volume.
mhm.
Then you will create a cluster shared volume, which is the log file on the source, right?
Yeah, this is
And
not a cluster shared volume; it's a cluster volume, but
yeah, at
near
least
enough.
that. Yeah, not quite sure. I think I saw it in the admin center. But anyways, and then you have two other disks or sort of volumes that will be
Yeah.
created on the other side, and then there will be a partnership implemented, and with that partnership, it will be some, or it will also create the groups,
And you
one
are
on
right;
each
it's
one on
also
each
a
side.
cluster shared volume. Yeah,
Okay.
but we shouldn't use that for data, right? You
No,
could
no,
use it; it's mounted.
no, no.
Um, So
Yeah.
this is the first volume, then we
Mm.
have our log, and then we have the replica volume and the replica log. And if we switch
Okay.
directions, this volume
Okay.
would be the source volume, and this would be the destination volume, right? And the log
Mhm.
files are
Yeah.
used. Uh, yeah.
And we could. What are we doing next? I mean, do you want to create also this using PowerShell,
We can do a
or
volume with PowerShell if you want to. Maybe it's a bit clearer how the
yeah,
process works.
yeah,
We can do that. We have
yeah, yeah.
PowerShell
And
for that.
to be clear, Windows Admin Center would be my preferred choice of creating that volumes. It does a lot for you, but you and we also together, and I had also experienced sometimes you have problems in trying this out. And maybe for understanding what happens, sometimes have it in code in PowerShell is useful. So that's maybe why we have a look. And from that, you could see it's not so much fun to do it with PowerShell, right?
Yeah. So I don't know which one is better to explain.
I would go for the left hand side, but
For the left one.
yeah, no, I'm not.
This is basically the same
Yeah.
as the left one. So this is more automated. It will ask for the volume and the direction and to do all the rest. So let's have a look here at this one.
Mm-hmm.
I I go I increase the font a bit,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
perfect.
that
Thank
we
you.
can see it better. So first, there are some variables, of course.
Mm-hmm.
This is a volume name that you
Yep.
create. You have to know that, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, we
Mm-hmm.
create this volume.
Correct.
In this example, as a terabyte, it has
Mm-hmm.
VFS
Mm-hmm.
with the volume name, and we have to specify the pool. We have two pools here, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So
got it.
it's in this side, in this example, it's the volume with the three, so it's on the
Odd.
odd side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then we create also the log volume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the name is the volume name minus log. So we just
Okay.
concatenate here. It's also ReFS and it's 100 gig. Yeah.
Okay.
So then we do a little trick
Mm-hmm.
because in a storage basis direct cluster or Azure Stack HCI cluster, you have a cluster group called available storage. And where this available storage is online, there you can do storage things. In
Mm-hmm.
a non-stretch cluster, it's always there online where where the action is, right? Because we don't have two pools or two sites. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in a stretch cluster, it can be inside side odd or side even,
Mm-hmm.
and it's online on one of the nodes. So, assuming when we do that here, it's
Mm-hmm.
online in node 3 or node 1.
Mm-hmm.
So if now we have to create the volumes on the other side. So we
Mm-hmm.
move, so we stop this group and
Mm-hmm.
we move the group to a node on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And we could also do a start cluster group to bring it online. Yeah? So
Mm-hmm.
let's say this is to be complete. This is missing here. Yeah? So we
Mm-hmm.
bring it online.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can create the replica volume
Correct.
in the other pool, in the even pool. This
Mm-hmm.
was in the odd pool. Now we do a same size volume that than our original volume. This is a
Mm-hmm.
data
Yep.
copy volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same size, same file system. We have the name minus replica, and it's in the other pool. And we do
Mm-hmm.
the same with the log volume.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Then we have to do something on the odd side. So we move again our available storage group to one node in the odd side. That's
Yep.
our, here it's coded, it's the node 1. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just showing the resources. It's not necessary, just some output. And then um, in this example, we add our our volume that we created with the volume name, we make a cluster shared volume out of it with the commanded add cluster shared volume.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah. So now, before that, it was just a cluster volume.
Mm-hmm.
Only one node is owner, and only this node can do something with the volume. And when we bring it up to a cluster shared volume, every node in the cluster basically can use it.
Mm-hmm.
Or VMs on every node can use it, and we'll see that later. So now we get some passes, yeah, the paths for the replica volume. Yeah, we have to
Mm-hmm.
have the name of the replica volume
Mm-hmm.
because for the partnership we need the volume name.
Mm-hmm.
Then we move again all the stuff to the other side, and
Mm-hmm.
then we get the two passes of the two volumes on the other side. That's the replica volume and the
Yep.
replica log. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then we create our partnership. Yeah? We say this is our source computer name, one name, one computer in the odd side.
Right.
This is our source side. There are the
Mm-hmm.
volumes that are the source volumes,
Mm-hmm.
and we create here also with this commandlet. We also create the storage replica groups. Yeah?
Yep.
And we use also here the volume name minus group for the
Mm-hmm.
source replica group in the odd side. And this is our name of our cluster shared volume. And then we have to specify the log volume name so that the replication knows, okay, this is the log volume. There I put my log information. And then we have to give it a destination computer, one computer of the even side. And there we specify the name of the storage replica, the storage replica group. And the name
Yep.
is volume name minus replica group. And then we give it the path. Yeah. And the log volume. And then the partnership is created. Yeah. Do you want to see it in action?
Yes, please. I mean, that was a lot,
But let
right?
me choose the other one. So the other one is a bit nicer. Or do you want to go step by step through the thing?
No, I mean, you explained it. So let's run it.
We don't have to do it again, right? So create stretched volume 2. It will ask for the volume name. So we have still the 3 to do and the 4. And the 3 is living in the odd side. So that should do the trick. Yeah, it will create the volumes. It's very fast, by the way. It's a bit faster than Admin Center, but Admin Center does it very safely. You see here, these are the other 2 volumes. And it's so nice to create volumes with ReFS. So ReFS is so fast with the formatting. So here's the partnership. And now we should see very soon some traffic.
And it should use again our, probably our 4 adapters, because we don't have some constraints set up for this volume, and we need therefore to do it again, right?
We have to do it again, yeah. So now everything should be fine. We should see data soon.
Can you do me a favor and do get SR
partnership or group?
Partnership, please, because I think that's the one where we see the no, then that's the other one, the group, where we see the replication status.
Yeah, but there are many groups, right?
Yeah.
So initial block copy, synchronous, but we don't see the node. It's on the cluster, right? So I think not this node is used. Let's see the third one. Here we have it 12, 9, 6, 11, 13. Yeah, no constraint set, but if I do the constraint here, we have our set constraint for volume 3. We will get an error. No, first direction, volume 3 is odd to even. So now we should see on the third one, nothing on cluster. And we have roughly 20 gigabit on REPL 1 and 20 gigabit on REPL 2. Yeah.
Okay, which is cool. So I think, yeah, that would be it, right? So we created, that was the video for creating the stretched volumes, right? There's obviously more to that, right? But I think we'll do that in a later video.
When we have some data in the volumes. This is just only creating volumes and initial replication, but we want to get real data in there, right? And do some performance tests.
Right.
And also show if something fails, of course.
Yep. Okay. So
okay, so this concludes this video, and in the next one we will look at some performance data with our I/O benchmark. See you there.